Hi everyone, welcome to today's tutorial video on IK Retargeting from Mixamo to Metahuman in Unreal Engine. In this video, I will be showing you how to transfer animations from Mixamo's library onto your Metahuman characters, ensuring they move smoothly and realistically via the advanced IK Retargeting system introduced in Unreal Engine 5 onwards. So let's get started. So you are looking into the Mixamo website from where I'm going to download this character along with a few animations for our demonstration. If you're not familiar with Mixamo, let me explain. Mixamo is a powerful web-based service that provides a vast array of 3D character models and animations. So I will be downloading a few of the animations from here. Okay, so I have imported the Mixamo character in my Unreal editor along with the animations. To understand how retargeting works in Unreal Engine 5, we have to learn about two essential assets, the IK Rig and the IK Retargeter. Now, if you're not familiar with the term IK, which stands for inverse kinematics, let me quickly explain. So in forward kinematics, the motion of a chain of segments or joints is determined by specifying the angle of each joint in the chain, but inverse kinematics works in just the opposite manner. Here the desired position of the end effector is specified, and the IK system calculates the angles and positions of the joints in the chain needed to achieve that end position. Now let's take a look into the Metahuman folder structure. Inside the common folder, you see this asset IK Metahuman, which is the IK Rig asset we discussed, and this RTG Metahuman is your IK Retargeter asset. Now let's take a look into the IK Rig editor first. Here in the center you see the preview mesh in the viewport. In the right panel you see this IK Retargeting tab, which basically contains the chain mappings for your major bone chains. On the left, we have the bone hierarchy, where you can also see a few additional nodes that define your bone IK goal. So here in the viewport, you can see the IK effectors in their respective joints, such as the hands and the feet. By moving this around, we can preview the IK in action. So in our mannequin folder, we can also see the IK Rig asset with quite a similar settings. And here the IK Retargeter asset is also provided, which we are going to look into now. In the IK Retargeter editor, you have to pass the source IK Rig asset and the target IK Rig asset. If you want to copy the animations from the mannequin to the Metahuman, the source IK Rig asset is going to be your mannequin's IK Rig, and the target IK Rig asset will be your Metahuman's IK Rig. Simple enough. If you have two very similar and compatible skeletons, then you don't have to worry about setting any additional parameters at all. You just need to pass the source and the target IK Rig assets, and here from the asset browser, you can simply click on one of the animations and you can see the target correctly copying the same animation. But in our case, when the source is Mixamo, things get a little complicated. So in the context menu, I will go to the animation category, and from the retargeting section, I will choose IK Rig. I will name this as IK Mixamo. So let's open this. So in the previous skeletal mesh, I will choose the Mixamo skeleton, and that brings up the hierarchy in the left. Now let's understand how this hierarchy is set up. There is no separate root for your Mixamo character. The first root bone starts from the hips. If you look into the Metahuman hierarchy or any other epic standard skeleton hierarchy, you see the first bone is a root bone and then the pelvis bone starts. But in Mixamo, there is no separate root bone. So we need to consider the hips bone as the root that we are going to use. So people often get confused that they always use the second bone as the root bone, because that's how Epic is also doing with their bones. But that's not the case here. The root bone in Epic is actually a dummy bone, but here the root bone is the hip bone itself. Now let me select the hips bone and then right click set retarget route. In the Metahuman, the retarget root is the pelvis and not the root bone. But in our case, since we don't have a separate root bone, the hip bone is going to be the retarget root. So I will select the 4 effector bones consisting of the 2 hands and the 2 feet. And then right click, new IK goal. And then it is asking me to assign the type of solver. So I will choose full body. Okay, so the solver is created, but it says that it's missing the root bone. So I will go to our root, right click, and then set root bone on selected solver. Because your full body IK needs to have a starting pose. Okay, so you can see that the solver is working, but the movement along the arms and the shoulder looks very weird and unnatural. Even the legs and the entire body is getting all messed up. And that's because we have not yet added the constraints. So we are going to do that now. So the constraints are going to ensure that when an IK solver is manipulated, the parent bones has restricted mobility. These bones can only move or rotate along predefined axis. So for that, I will select the left arm and left forearm over here and right click, then add settings to selected bone. That will create a couple of nodes where you can define your settings. So I will set the use predefined angles to true. This will ensure that a given bone will prefer to rotate along a given axis when the chain it belongs to is being pulled in. It's usually -90 or 90 along the Z axis for your arm bones. Now the movement along the arms looks much more realistic. So this reset button is going to reset your bone transformations back to their original values along with the respective IK goal nodes. Alright, so now I will add the IK bone settings to our leg bones as well. For the legs, it is going to be in the X axis instead. So your preferred angle may be different than mine. Now let's look into few of the parameters in our full body solver. So here you can see allow stretch. If it is set to true, the limb is going to get stretched all the way to the position of the IK goal. and that looks very weird. So unless you are making some elastic man for your project, I don't recommend this. So the root behavior is currently set to pre-pull. You can also change it to pin to input or free. In pre-pull, the root basically tends to move towards the direction of movement of the IK effectors. Now let's take a look into the other solvers you currently have apart from the full body IK. We will start with the simplest solver ever, the body move, which does perfectly justice to its name. It simply moves the body along the movement direction of the end effectors. So it is missing the root bone. So let's see what happens when I set the spine as the root bone. Now I need to add its goals. So I will just connect one of the IK goals to the solver. Okay, that is really messed up. I think I have to set the heap as the root bone. I will connect the rest of the goals as well. Yeah, as you can see, I'm able to move the body around. And that's pretty much it. I have not found anything this solver does other than simply moving around the body. So let's look into the next solver, which is the set transform. For this, whichever bone you want to add a transformation to, you just add a goal to it and connect that goal to this solver. This will need only one specific IK goal. So if you want this limb IK to be effective on the left hand, you can simply connect the left hand IK to the solver. So in this case, the root bone is going to be the root of the limb, which is our left arm. Okay, so here the full body IK is also working in conjunction. So for once, let's disable that to see just the effect of the limb IK. Yeah, so now only the limb is moving and not the entire body. You can also remove the full body IK goal settings from the left hand goal. That will ensure that even though the full body IK solver is enabled, for the left hand goal only the limb IK is going to work. So here I connected the right foot goal to the limb IK as well, just to test how the feet movement work. Okay, here you see the issue that you have. Previously, what we had is we had the full body goal settings that we could easily adjust to change the desired angle. But for the limb IK, I could not find a similar parameter that we can adjust to just change the desired rotation. So to fix this, there is a workaround and that will make us jump over to the next solver, which is the pole vector. So let's look into that now. For this solver, I will set the root bone as the right up leg, and this also requires an end bone, so I will select it now. I am getting an error here that the pole solver requires at least 3 bones between the root and the end bone. So I will choose the right foot as the end bone instead. Alright, so now you have a basic understanding of how the other IK solvers work. So maybe you will find their use cases, but for today's demonstration, we are going to use just the full body IK. So I will delete the remaining solvers. Now that I'm satisfied with my IK goal settings, it's time for me to start creating retarget chains. The process is a little tedious, but it's still much better than what we used to have in Unreal Engine 4. So I will start with the root bone. I will select it, right click, and then click on new retarget chain. So it's going to bring up this window where I can add a chain name and then click on add chain. For the spine chain, I will select all the spine bones together because I want them in the same chain. Let's set up the remaining bones as well similarly. For the finger bones, although each finger needs to be in different chain, I can select them all at once and click on new retarget chain, and it is going to create separate chain for every hierarchy. I can simply rename the chain for each hierarchy every time this dialog pops up. Now we are going to add the IK Retargeter. In the source IK rig asset, I will add the Mixamo IK rig that we were just working on. And in the target IK rig asset, I need to add the destination IK rig. In this case, it is going to be the Metahuman rig. Okay, so the two meshes are overlapping each other. So let's add our target mesh offset along the x-axis. In the asset browser section over here, you can select any of the animations to see how it plays on the target rig. Currently it looks really messed up, but don't worry, we have to do a lot of settings including the pose matching. From here you can select the edit retarget pose. Before starting to match the poses, let's set the target offset back to 0 to understand if the poses are aligning as closely with each other as possible. It's better if we are perfectly positioning them on top of each other. So here we have the option to transform the bones of both the source and target skeletons. The goal is to minimize the difference in pose between the two skeletons. Alright, so I am satisfied with the retarget pose. Let's now test out the animations to see what are the issues we still have. Okay, this looks fine so far. Let's just change the target preview mesh to something that is a little more visual. Okay, so I can still see certain issues with how the target character is working, and that's mostly because of the IK. You can of course disable the IK from the global settings over here, but I also want to use the IK. So let's continue matching our retarget pose further. Now I can adjust the IK settings of the individual IK bones further, especially this extension parameter, which controls how much you want to extend your bone towards your IK goal. By controlling all these parameters, you can adjust the unnatural bend of your character. So you can explore these parameters and play along with the values till you get your desired result. So once you're satisfied with the target animations, it's time for export. So you can select the animations you want to export and click on this button. So it will ask you to choose your path. Also, you have several options like add some prefix and suffix to your exported animations. So the animations have been exported and we can test them out and see if there are any issues. And if you still find that the IK is giving you some unrealistic results, it's always an option to disable the IK. IK retargeting is absolutely not necessary because you can set up your own IK system via control rig. If you are not familiar with control rig blueprints, that can be a separate video altogether. So let me know in the comment section and I will make a tutorial on it. If you already have an animation blueprint set up, then you can definitely test these animations out to ensure they are looking perfect in your game. You may want to re-export some of the animations with different settings. For example, you don't need an IK retargeting for your ideal animations. In that case, you can uncheck the enable IK option and re-export the animation. Alright, that wraps up today's tutorial. If you're interested in diving deeper into how I set up this Metahuman character and tackled the animation blueprints, I invite you to follow my game development tutorial series. You will find the link in the description below.